ごめんごめん.
Behind the closed walls, there are children in uniforms who are casually playing around. The anime begins with Kuku bringing a tomato to Tarao, who is facing an illness. On the second floor, Mimihime is watching the other kids play when Tokyo approaches her. He asks what Mimihime is doing here since the beginning of class is about to start. She tells Tokyo that there will be a test today. However, Tokyo is confused as their robot sensei has not informed them about any test today. The class starts and the teacher announces that there is going to be a surprise test. The test appears on their workbook tablets and comprises only 10 short questions. Meanwhile, Kuku is watching Kona draw a fish with arms, which she finds weird, but in a good way. Tokyo's test suddenly refreshes, and an 11th question appears in front of him, whether he wants to see what is outside of the wall. Meanwhile, on the outside, the whole world has been destroyed due to some great tragedy, and most of the people have lost their lives. Two teenagers, Kiruko and Maru, are exploring the neighborhood to look for food or other necessary items. They break into a house where they find a couple that died of starvation. Upon discovering this, they break into another huge empty house where once again, there is no food. Kiruko, who is addressed as sis by Maru, opens a canned food and adds the weed that is growing all over town, hoping it will make the food taste better. However, she ends up ruining the precious canned food too. Later that night, Kiruko, who is actually Maru's bodyguard, stares at a picture of a middle-aged man and an older man who might be her family or someone she knows. When Maru asks, she reveals that the young man is her friend, while the older man is just someone she wishes to meet. She hopes to run into them while guarding Maru to his destination. Just then, they show a scary huge bird flying in the middle of the dark sky. The next day, they run into a group of thugs who get excited to finally see a woman after so long. These perverts try to attack them, but Kiruko's gun scares them away. However, one of the thugs notices that the gun looks strange and suspects that it might just be a dummy. They charge in to capture them, but Maru easily fights them off. Kiruko then fires her electric gun and defeats the thugs. They take the thugs captive and head to their place where Kiruko uses her gun to blackmail them into charging the battery of something. In exchange for some food, she makes them share the location of Tomato Tengoku or Tomato Heaven that they were talking about earlier. Once the battery is charged, she puts it back into her gun, which devastates the thugs as they were being threatened with an empty gun all this time. This gun can only shoot 4 shots in a single charge and has a 50-50 chance of actually firing. However, this is the only weapon they have on their way to finding heaven. Back at the closed facility, Tokyo shares the strange question that appeared in his test with Mimihime. She responds by saying that she has always had a feeling that there is an outside. Recently, she has been able to imagine it more clearly. Whenever she thinks of going outside, she envisions 2 people from the outside coming to help her. What's strange is that one of their faces is exactly the same as Tokyo's. Later that night, the director, in a wheelchair, finds Tokyo wandering outside and confirms his suspicion that there really is an outside beyond these walls. Kiruko is tired of all the walking, so they decide to spend the night at a guest house they found. When she asks the friendly owner about the guys from the pictures, the owner reveals that she has not seen them before. They head to the baths where Kiruko, after taking off her clothes, tries to kiss her reflection in the mirror. However, the owner enters at this awkward moment. After the bath, Kiruko plugs in the battery of her gun. The owner shares that very few people come here because of a monster. Upon hearing the explanation, Kiruko realizes that the owner is talking about a man-eater and shares that they can kill it. The owner then serves them a tasty meal and hesitantly informs them that having children with a close relative is very dangerous. Maru and Kiruko blush. She reveals that Maru is not actually her brother, nor are they dating. He is just someone she has to guard. Maru feels bad about being just an object of protection. Later that night, they both feel tired and fall asleep instantly. The huge bird with a creepy face from earlier lands right outside the owner's window. Meanwhile, the director of the facility tells Tokyo that there is an outside to these walls, but it is a hell where dangerous monsters lurk. After talking with Tarao about the outside, Tokyo sees 2 girls kissing. Then, Kuku shows the fish drawing that Kona gave to her. Tokyo gets mad and confronts Kona about why he gave that painting to Kuku after he promised him. Kona apologizes and promises to make the next one for him. Meanwhile, the bowl-cut guy receives a message from Mimihime for the first time. He opens the message, and it turns out to be a picture of Mimihime showering. Kiruko wakes up from the noise of the creepy man-eater. She wakes up Maru and heads out to kill it. While looking for it in the dark, Maru trips and falls to the ground. Suddenly, the monster appears behind Kiruko. They realize that it has whips attached to its wings, which move fast enough to seem invisible. Kiruko manages to hit one of its wings and uses Maru as a distraction to shoot the other wing. Meanwhile, the owner finds them just before Kiruko is about to shoot and stops her, saying that they should not kill it. Her son was eaten by this monster, and she now believes that her son's consciousness has overtaken the monster. Her claim is backed by the fact that she is standing so close to it, yet she is not being attacked. Kiruko agrees to back off, however, the whips suddenly cut the owner into 3 pieces, and the man-eater consumes her. Realizing that their mistake had cost the owner her life, Maru charges at the monster by beautifully dodging all its whips, which move in only one direction. Once he makes contact with it, he extends his hand into the body of the man-eater and crushes its heart. Just like that, they defeat the monster. The next day, they continue their journey. The great disaster that devastated this world occurred 15 years ago, so at that time, Kiruko would have been either 3 or 5 years old. To reach Tomato Heaven, they have to cross the water. Using a square-shaped wooden piece as a boat, they quickly hop on and hope that there are no crocodiles. Back at the facility, Taka shows everyone his recent invention that allows a person to climb high altitudes. While experimenting, the device loses power after reaching the top, causing Taka to fall to the ground. Surprisingly, he only sustains minor scratches and is still fine. Upon seeing Taka falling, Mimihime involuntarily hugs the person next to her, who happens to be Shiro, causing everyone to question why Shiro is the one with a nosebleed. Meanwhile, Kiruko and Maru reach Tomato Tengoku, and if this place turns out to be the heaven he is searching for, their time together will come to an end. Maru shows a needle and a drug that he needs to inject into someone who has exactly the same face as him. That person might be in heaven. The last person to see Mikura, who gave Maru this drug and instruction, was Kiruko. Mikura had strange marks appearing all over his body, and while dying from this infection, he told Kiruko to take Maru to heaven and gave her the beam gun. This Tomato Heaven is a small civilization established by the remaining people. They are taken to the village chief, whose wife shares that they are now growing all kinds of vegetables and crops, not just tomatoes. Later that night, while Maru and Kiruko are having dinner, a villager approaches them with excitement and asks if Kiruko is actually Kiruko Takehaya, the famous electro kart racer. Maru denies that she is a racer, but the guy shows him a picture, and it turns out she has the exact same face. Although the kart racer has black hair while Kiruko here has reddish hair, Maru still denies that she is not the same person. Just then, Maru notices the same symbol that is on their beam gun on a box. They continue their journey on a ship where Maru confesses his feelings to Kiruko, saying that he likes her a lot and wants to settle down with her. If you think the worst she could say is no, you have got another thing coming as Kiruko reveals to him that she is actually a boy but in a girl's body.
Huh?
5 years ago in Tokyo, Kiruko's race was underway while a kid named Haruki was chasing some bad guys. Those guys were found selling fake tickets to the race. Due to the difference in strength, they pinned Haruki down, but he was saved by Robin, who defeated the bad guys and guided Haruki on the best way to fight. As a token of appreciation for his bravery, Robin gave him a jacket. Haruki flaunts his new jacket in front of his friends, and just then, Haruki's older sister, Kiruko, arrives with the old guy from the picture, who is addressed as Doc. She got disqualified as she fell off her cart. One of the kids shows his camera to Kiruko, and that's when she took a picture with Doc, which she is still carrying to this day. Later that night, Haruki and Kiruko are sleeping in their room at the orphanage when they hear the sound of footsteps. Haruki checks from the window, and Robin shares that a man-eater has appeared, and they are all on their way to kill it. Haruki gets dressed, picks up the new weapon he created, and heads out to help everyone. His weapon actually manages to kill the man-eater. The next day, when another guy praises Haruki for taking down a man-eater, he reveals that he still received an earful from Robin. Robin used to have a sister who was the same age as Haruki and she died in the Great Disaster. Since then, he has been overprotective of him. He then runs off to see his sister's race from a tall tower. Using his binoculars, he notices a barely visible man-eater at the end of the track. Worried that his sister might run into it, he chases the monster to steer it off track. The weapon that managed to kill the similar Maneater has barely any damage on this one, so he decides to use a dagger to stab it in its ugly face. Meanwhile, Kiruko is leading the race and will soon reach the end of the track. As Haruki stabs it, his arm starts to get sucked into this creepy monster. When Haruki tries to break free using his other hand, that gets sucked in too. Haruki arrives and notifies the other contestants that there is a man-eater present, so they should head back and inform the headquarters. Before she turns around as well, she notices a half-consumed body in its mouth. Upon closer look, Kiruko realizes that it's her brother. She runs the cart into the monster, and that's where she gets all those scars that we saw on her body. She manages to pull out her brother, but only the upper half of Haruki remains, while the rest of his body has already been consumed. Kiruko starts crying and yelling for help while Haruki is on his last breath. With slightly open eyes, he sees his sister's crying face, and then just as he closes his eyes, he hears a gunshot. While dying, he remembers all the good memories with his sister. Meanwhile, the operation is underway, and after a long scary dream, Haruki finally wakes up. He can't believe that he survived, but before anything else, he looks around for his sister. Just as he is about to ask the doctors, he sees his sister standing right by his side. Upon closer look, he realizes that it's just a mirror, and it turns out that Haruki is in his sister's body. After calming down, he gets to know that the person who performed the operation was Doc, and he immediately leaves town afterward. Haruki has no idea how he ended up in his sister's body, since the last time he saw her, she was fine and definitely alive. After 4 months, Haruki is finally healed, so he begins searching for Robin and Doc. The orphanage he used to live at has been closed. Since no one knows whether Doc and Robin are alive or not, he takes out their pictures and starts moving from town to look for them. For food and money, he starts accepting random requests, and after 4 years, he gets this job with Maru that brings him here. Therefore, he asks Maru to see him as a man now. However, Maru still blushes whenever he sees Kiruko's face up close and even gets jealous when she speaks so frankly of Robin. We will still address her as a female. Suddenly, they hear a scream, and it turns out that their ship is being attacked by another creepy man-eater. Meanwhile, Kona is drawing a picture of a baby in the fetus, and Kuku asks if she could have this picture. However, Kona tells her that this one is for Tokyo. Tokyo asks Kuku why she is interested in Kona's drawings, when she finds it weird. Kuku responds that his creativity is unique, just like the picture of the baby he is drawing, which is fictional. She has seen a real baby, and real babies do not have faces. Kiruko heads out and fires her beam gun right into the fish-like man-eater's face. However, this time, the gun has no effect because of the protective water layer around it. That allows it to breathe outside of water as well. Meanwhile, Kuku is taking Tokyo to see the faceless babies. In the surveillance room, the teachers are wondering why students are kissing each other, as they never teach them anything about physical needs. Suddenly, they notice Takao's health getting worse, so they inform the doctors immediately. Kuku climbs up the wall towards the air hole and enters. Tokyo uses Taka's gadget to climb up as well. What's surprising is that the surveillance camera does not show Tokyo climbing up the wall. On the ship, the smart boy and his beautiful sister's body analyzes the situation. She concludes that the best way to kill this creepy monster with suction hands and lubricant all around is to drive it away from water. Since it only moves in a straight line, they will lure it inside the ship. She goes outside and baits herself, so the man-eater follows her. She then leads it inside the basement, a door that is hardly ever opened. The basement is filled with boxes, making it difficult for Maru and Kiruko to run over them. Maru reaches the door on the other side of the room, but it is locked. Kiruko tells him that they don't need to open the door because the boxes are filled with marijuana that slowly sucks the water out of the man-eater, weakening it until it falls. Maru then uses his Maru Touch to crush its heart. Kiruko named it Maru Touch after successfully naming her gun Kiru Beam. It may be an awful naming choice, but since she is cute, we shall accept it. Kuku and Tokyo jump into a locked room with several faceless babies. However, these are not human babies, they are the freaking man-eater babies. One of the babies attempts to get close to Tokyo, and suddenly the intruder alarm goes off. All the teachers and the director gather to see who dared to intrude. Meanwhile, Kuku is already in the vent, but Tokyo cannot jump that high. The surveillance cameras still show an empty room of man-eater babies, even though Tokyo is standing right there in the middle of the room. Kuku gives a hand to Tokyo, and by stepping on the wall, he manages to escape. However, his footprint is left on the wall. What's even more messed up is that the man-eater, which was trying to reach out its hand towards Tokyo, memorizes his name and stutters Tokyo. The ship captain and his extremely loud brother thanks Maru and Kiruko for killing the monster and give a lead about the symbol on the gun. They explore the town and find a Yukon, which Maru names You Can Eat. The lead about the symbol turns out to be false, so they spend the night in a home center. Back at the facility, Shiro is devastated for forgetting the sight of Mimahime's naked body, so he leads her to an empty room after class. Surprisingly, Mimahime denies ever sending him a message. Shiro then confesses his horny feelings towards Mimahime and explains in detail what he wants to do to her body. Tokyo overhears their conversation and then leaves. While talking to Tarao, who has the same marks all over his body like Mikura, he asks Tokyo to get closer to him and tries to kiss him. Tokyo then freaks out and runs away. Kona notices and tries to calm him by saying that falling in love and wanting to touch or be touched by someone is normal. Tokyo confesses that in that case, he wants it to be with Kona. Kona reciprocates the feelings, saying he wants it to be with Tokyo too. Later that night, Tokyo is called into Tarao's room, whose condition is getting worse. Tarao realizes that he may die soon, so he apologizes to Tokyo for trying to kiss him earlier, and tells him to run away as this facility is dangerous. In the arcade, Maru is playing some games when he is approached by some thugs. A fight breaks out between them, and as it is Maru, he beats the crap out of them. One of the guys tries to escape but unluckily runs into Kiruko, who is back from her unsuccessful attempt to sell a CD. Without knowing what is going on, she starts beating that guy up too. Before more arrive, they head off. Maru shares that he was born the same year as the Great Disaster. The place where he lived with other kids got closed down. The adult who led their group was then killed over some sort of turf war, so the kids went with the killer. He became their gang member and started working under them. That's when Mikura turned up and took him in, teaching him how to kill Hiruko, also known as the Man-Eater. Kiruko asks if he saw her as a woman, but Maru shares that the coldness in her eyes never let him feel anything towards her. The room next door is filled with books, which Kiruko has already gathered useful ones. She then heads out for shopping alone, as Maru's face might be recognized by those thugs. Kiruko notices that those guys from yesterday are actually looking for Maru. One of them suggests that they just leave him be and focus on the Ministry of Reconstruction that rumors are flying about. This rumor was also told to Kiruko by Robin before. It is about a group abducting people with skills to restore civilization back to how it was. Kiruko heads back and notices that Maru is not in the room while all the stuff is still here. She panics and starts screaming his name. It turns out Maru is in the next room, apparently hiding. Kiruko steps forward to see that Maru was not hiding but treating himself with that porno magazine. She starts crying with joy, as she never thought she would freak out this way over Maru's disappearance. Maru consoles her with a hug, and during the hug, Kiruko feels something hard. Back in the facility, the doctor finds footprints of Tokyo on the wall and discreetly starts taking pictures of children's boots to match. Meanwhile, the children are singing and dancing as a way to cheer Tarao on to fight against their illness. Later that night, Tarao dies, and the funeral is conducted the next morning. Tarao is the second child who died. The first one was Kona's best friend, Asura, who committed suicide because her body could not bear such a sharp mind. The director screams at the doctor to find the cure for this illness as the day of fate cannot be changed. Meanwhile, Kiruko shows Maru the map she bought in exchange for books. There is a place with 100% safe water, and they suspect it to be heaven. Just then, a guy knocks on their door. This guy was also on the ship and wants them to be his bodyguards while he heads towards the Immortal Order. This place is said to have a doctor who can keep a person alive forever if transplanted with a man-eater's body part. These man-eaters only started to appear after the Great Disaster. However, the body part he collected has already broken into pieces, so it cannot be used now. They buy the information about the Immortal Order's location and head towards it. According to the map, this place is said to have strange people. Meanwhile, the doctors show the director a creepy black strange thing that came out of Tarao's body. They ask a girl about this place with 100% safe water, and after she explains the way to the underground entrance, she tries to make them book a room in her hotel. Kiruko could not see her sadness, so she agrees to stay the night there and puts their bags in their rooms. Maru realizes that she only rented the room to give her money. They arrive at the location and notice that the water really is very clean. They see an injured man in the middle of the place. When they approach him, he shares that there is a monster here and they should save his companion. Afterwards, he passes out. The other companion is already lying dead in the water. They see the bear-like monster and immediately run out of the underground room. Using 2 bullets, Kiruko breaks a pillar that falls over the monster chasing them, making it unconscious. It was not crushed as it did not fall directly on top of it. Maru is impressed by this person in a woman's body's quick thinking and improvisation. Kiruko then asks Maru to use his Maru touch on it. Maru, who is not convinced by this name, yells the new name he gave to this power, Fatal Dive, and tries to go into the monster. However, he fails as the monster wakes up with a howl. It turns out that it's not a man-eater but a wild animal. They freak out and start running like crazy until they manage to climb up a pillar. They stay there until sunset, and the bear has apparently left. Kiruko still has 1 shot left, so she takes out the battery to warm it up before climbing down. Unfortunately, she drops the battery onto the ground. Since the bear is not present, she asks Maru to climb down and bring the battery back. Maru refuses to risk his life for her mistake. Kiruko makes an offer that if he brings back the battery, she will allow him to touch her opai. Before she can complete her sentence, Maru has already jumped off. Men will be men. The bear appears as soon as Maru steps down, however, he is too fast to be caught by the bear. They devise a plan. Maru will step down first, and then Kiruko, who is afraid of heights, will jump off and Maru will catch her. Afterward, Maru should run away while she fires the last shot. Their plan works, and they manage to kill the bear. Kiruko risked her life as she was certain that the battery was already fully charged with Maru's horny energy. Totori, the girl from the hotel, is sad as the injured guy is her boss. Later that night, after enjoying the bear meat, Kiruko realizes that they were tricked in the tent city and lured into hunting grounds. It's possible that the guys Maru beat up, they might have planned it. Afterward, Maru asks her to keep her end of the bargain. He begins unbuttoning her shirt while getting on top of her. Due to the noise, Totori bursts into the room and takes Maru away so they don't ruin her futon. Meanwhile, at the facility, Tokyo is told to rest since he is sick. He sees the ghost of Asura in front of him, who asks what Tokyo is good at. She then disappears, and something weird starts covering Tokyo's body. That's when he wakes up from this weird dream. At the hotel, Maru and Kiruko bow down to apologize to Totori while she enjoys their total submission to Her Majesty. She reveals that this hotel is all she has, and she intends to become the king of hotels by having more clean rooms and by sleeping with the guests. Later, Maru shares that this is the first time Maru Touch worked on a human. Kiruko mocks him by saying, "Isn't it fatal dive?" The next day, Maru and Kiruko leave after Totori tells them that the man they rescued yesterday, her boss, couldn't make it. They offer her to join them, but she declines, so Maru tells her to become the king of hotels for real. They head off to their next destination. Meanwhile, Tokyo heads to Kona's room in the middle of the night. The surveillance cameras still show Tokyo in his room asleep, while he is chatting with Kona in his room. The doctor runs a similarity check on the footprint in Tokyo's shoes and finds out that Tokyo was the intruder. In Kona's room, they both take off their clothes, and it turns out that Tokyo is actually a girl. Let me know your thoughts, and I'm out.